Elvis. Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. I just saw the movie Elvis. I'm not sure if it was subtitled TCB or even, I thought the movie was titled Elvis, but they kept showing the TCB logo that they made for this movie before and after. If you're new to this station, this is Mike's Instant Movie Reviews. I go see movies and I talk about them. And I do have subscriptions to a lot of the theaters, AMC and Regal in particular. So sometimes I'm able to see these movies advanced a couple of days before the rest of you folks. Now, if you happen to live in an area where you get AMC theaters or Regal cinemas or Cinemark, check into their subscription plans, because then you might be able to get into these advanced screenings like me. But then you wouldn't have to watch my reviews, so maybe I shouldn't tell you to do that. So first things first, is this movie worth seeing? I say a big yes. I say it's a big hit. The editing reminded me favorably of Goodfellas, believe it or not. Kind of that, or I don't know if you ever saw Any Given Sunday. That would probably be, Any Given Sunday was more of the extreme of the montage editing. This one, it's, I kept thinking to the Jennifer Hudson, who I think was kind of robbed for her portrayal of Aretha Franklin in Respect for a Best Actress nomination last year. You know, if you compare that movie, Respect, to this Elvis movie, there's just, to me, some chance taking, some risk taking in editing goes a long way. I make movies myself, as you may or may not know, and this movie took some chances, this Elvis movie. Hold on. There's some people leaving the theater, but yeah, this movie was good. It was a lot of fun, but there's some heartache as well. But should you go see it? I say a definite yes. I say this movie should be seen on the big screen. Most movies, like 99% of the movies that I see, I think should be, they're better seen on the big screen than a home TV situation. I know that the Netflix and chill is popular with the kids, but I still like to go to the cinema. So I'm a big fan of this film. I say yes, go see it. The audience that I was just in there with looked like a lot of people from Elvis's generation, which I don't know if they still call that the greatest generation or the baby boomers. So what I feel like this Elvis movie is going to do, it's going to put another 50 years on, or maybe 100, onto the legacy of Elvis, because I think we're getting to that point where Elvis's generation are starting to phase out, meaning die. People that were his contemporaries, people that were his fans of his age or a little bit younger, they're passing away. So the next generation and the generations after that, they're not going to really understand the story of Elvis unless there's a movie like this to tell them, which I think this movie does pretty well in a kind of contemporary way to an extent, but not getting away from the facts. They do kind of, I guess, spoilers at this point, because now I'm going to get into some of the dirty details of the movie. This movie does paint Elvis in a very positive light, I think. And I think that's good. I mean, it's, but there's been other people. I mean, I think there was a song by Public Enemy that, Public Enemy or NWA, something like Elvis, straight out racist. I think that was Public Enemy, Chuck D, and so forth. So, I mean, there's obviously people who, they probably have a good point, and I don't think this movie shies away from the point. It really is just how you look at it. But did Elvis exploit the African-American musicians, taking the best of what they did and just putting a smiling white face on it? I mean, I think that's established. We knew that already going into this movie. That's kind of portrayed pretty well. At that situation. But I mean, Elvis took advantage of that, I guess you could say, but at the same time, he was kind of just being himself, according to this film. And I've been to Elvis's home, Tupelo, his birthplace. Elvis did come from humble beginnings, and apparently his father spent some time in jail. And I didn't know about the whole James Garrison part of this story. Elvis's twin brother that passed away, stillborn child, so Elvis was always kind of haunted by this memory, and his mother kind of put this hocus pocus on him, like, you've got the strength of two men and all this good stuff. And there's been stories about that. Some guy wrote a fictional account of the James Garrison Presley life, if James Garrison had lived or whatever. So I mean, there's a whole bunch of shtick to Elvis. I mean, it's a mythology, okay? Now, as far as the Austin Butler goes, I mean, tough role to fucking hoe. I give the guy a lot of credit. You know, I think he did, I mean, for a performance like that, as an actor myself, I can look at that performance, Austin Butler as actually Elvis Presley, Elvis Aaron Presley, and say, yeah, kudos to him, kudos to Austin Butler. He really had no fear. I mean, to play a role where there's like a lot of, you know, hip gyrations and sexuality and wearing the jumpsuits, and you know, it's a good performance to pull that off and not look like a fucking clown, to be quite honest. Even a good-looking guy like an Austin Butler, if he wasn't a good actor, he would look like an idiot, you know, by today's standards. And I think Austin pulls it off quite well, does quite fucking well with it. A prettier Elvis that I might remember. I mean, I think of Elvis, like the real Elvis, a little more ruggedly handsome, but I mean, everybody's got their perspective, and you know, but I think from the standard of back then, the 1950s, when this guy came out, he did kind of have a, I guess, a metrosexual appeal to the folks back then, you know, and it's just all perspective. But I think Austin Butler overall did a nice job, did a great job. Now, Tom Hanks might be the real story here, and I give credit to guys like Tom Hanks and also Harrison Ford. I saw Harrison Ford in 42 again with Chadwick Boseman, R.I.P., the Black Panther actor. I saw 42 about a week ago. Second time I've seen it. It was playing at this very theater that I saw it. And Harrison Ford played the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers. And similarly to Harrison taking that role, Tom Hanks taking on this role of the Colonel. These guys who maybe, you know, peaked in the 80s or 90s are not afraid to take on roles where they're not the glamour boy. You know, they're taking on the old sage mentor role. So good for them. I thought Tom did very well in this. Great, actually. I could see Academy Award nominations or Screen Actors Guild SAG-AFTRA nominations for both Hanks and Austin Butler in their respective roles. Priscilla, the young lady, I forget her name already, sorry, but the woman who plays Priscilla Presley throughout, who Elvis met very young. I don't think they went into the fact that she was like underage, and it's like, I think they were like second cousins, or was that Jerry Lee Lewis or something? But I think, I guess they weren't cousins, but fuck, that was Jerry Lee Lewis with his 14-year-old bride. But they didn't really get into the fact that, how old was Priscilla when she met Elvis? Like 16 or something like that. They don't really get into that nuance so much. I did have a restroom break during the film at one point, so I might have missed something, but they didn't get into any of the controversy. And back then, I guess, the 70s or whatever, I mean, even up to Aaliyah, you know, people didn't really bat an eye at these young women having these relationships in the entertainment industry. So what can I tell you? I wasn't around to monitor the situation. But in any event, gorgeous actress, and played Priscilla Presley, who was a gorgeous woman, still alive, I believe. And she does a great job, you know, and I thought she did great. Some of the other side characters, I mean, the Memphis Mafia, they're presented, but we don't really go down the rabbit hole of trying to flesh out those characters too much. I mean, they're there, but they're kind of as accessory characters. What else? Grace, his mom. Graceland, that's, if you didn't know, Graceland was named after his mother. And Vernon, his father. The father actor looked familiar. I don't remember who that was, but he did a pretty good job as Vernon. And Grace was in it for a while. She did pretty good. I think she did very good. But kind of the small town fairs, like the county fairs and like the rural kind of beginnings of this guy's career, playing at the 4-H fairs or the county fairs or whatever the fuck. All that stuff I thought was very interesting. And like I said, maybe this movie could get an editing award, Academy Award for editing, because, and music too. And some of the songs were by, you know, performed by Elvis. I think Austin Butler, I saw at the end credits, had at least one song that he performed. Good for him. But I definitely could see some editing awards for this fucking movie, because they took some, you know, a story that maybe has been told in other films. I know it has. books, you know, all types of things about Elvis, and they presented it in a kind of, like I said, a very Goodfellas-esque editing, mosaic, if you would. You know, look into these terms, cinematic montage. There was a term that they used with Citizen Kane. There was it cinematic montage, I believe. That's a term that Citizen Kane kind of started that, but this movie does it very well, where you tell a bunch of stuff through a montage with some music and some sound clips and so forth. And there's even some animation in this movie, believe it or not. Apparently Elvis was a big Captain Marvel fan, so he kind of has this fantasy of, as a young man, rescuing his father from prison, and as a Captain Marvel, to the Rock to eternity. Colonel Tom, I mean, hold on, I gotta be quiet. More people. Kind of an interesting technique in this film that they had the narrator, Colonel Tom, is basically an antagonist and kind of a supporting protagonist at the same time. So I mean, very interesting. The movie, you could say, is really from Colonel Tom's perspective. He's the narrator. He's the one that's directly talking to us, the audience. Yet we find out through Elvis's revelations, through other friends, and through the end of the movie, we find out what a scumbag he was too. So very good, I think. Very, like I said, risk-taking, non-traditional storytelling. But at the same time, you could follow the movie. You know what I mean? It wasn't, like I said, probably the worst, best case example, Any Given Sunday, the Oliver Stone football film from back in 97, I believe, or 99. That was just so over the top with the editing. It's a good movie too, but it's just, you really have to be stuck to your seat watching that thing to figure it out. Some movies go overboard with that type of stuff. I mean, there's a movie that I always cite, Ethan Hawke, who does very well in this Black Phone movie that I reviewed. But he once directed a movie that was really hard to follow called The Chelsea Walls, about the Chelsea Hotel. And it was just a shit train of a movie that he made. Nice guy though, Ethan Hawke. I went to a screening where he was there in person. Nice gentleman, but movie wasn't good. Good music though, Wilco. That movie is Chelsea Walls. Anyway, getting back to this one. I just got an update. Some fucking thing just popped in my phone about some fucking thing. Hold on.
My God. That's why you wear sneakers. That could have easily fucked my whole shit up. I could have been like,
Yeah.
your foot daily out.
Wow. Good fun. So I liked the movie. I liked it a lot. I think it's a great movie. Definitely an adrenaline ride. You definitely want to get to the theater. Luckily, I got to the theater like 20 minutes late, but they did have the traditional 20 minutes of previews here. I did go see Lightyear yesterday. I kind of fell asleep, to be honest with you. So this movie I didn't fall asleep. So I did, like I said, I missed a couple of scenes. I'll probably go see the movie again, to be honest with you, before it's done. Boy. So yeah, go see the movie.